From the heart of the land of the Guardians, where the dog pound roars, the Cavs soar, and heartbreak is just part of the game, this is 3 and Out, Cleveland Sports Talk. With Jason, Drew, and Michael, 3 diehard fans breaking down the highs, the lows, and everything in between. No fluff, no filters, just Cleveland sports the way it's meant to be. Now let's get into it. Here's your hosts, Michael, Jason, and Drew.
Cleveland! This is for you! Down goes Anderson!
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. We are 3 and Out, and wow, do we have a lot to talk about today. We've had quite a few events happen in the last, few days, really.
Busy week.
Yeah, we've got the Guardians. I mean, holy smoke, they're not good at all. Doing not good things.
You're being very nice to them.
That's all I can do. Just
it's
smile.
only the past couple games they've been horrible.
Horrible.
24-4.
Right. Just
That's not
awful.
good.
That's not good.
Well, the season's still young. There's still
We got 162 games
162
left.
games to fix it. So, holy smoke.
Hopefully we'll get there. Hopefully Jose will find his
Right.
rhythm. Hopefully Santana will start hitting.
Hopefully
our
anybody.
pitching will
Just-
start to pitch.
I think they may understand.
Hopefully
the
our
game.
fielding
Like,
will start to field.
I was going to say the errors are
pitching. You're supposed.
Hopefully
to
we start to baseball.
Do they understand that it's not like the goal is not to like see how many home runs you can give up? Like, you do want to strike people out. You don't want to like.
Well,
just-
maybe that's one way for one of them to get to the All-Star game is to
Maybe.
be the pitcher in the home run derby.
wow.
Well, on a brighter note, the Cavs are blowing it out of there. You know, they're understanding that you do have to score runs or points to move on, and they've done so. They've done very well with that. In fact, their last 2 games have been
They scored a lot of runs.
scored a lot of runs
They could have given the Guardians some of those points to use as runs.
and still
And
won
still
by a
would've.
lot.
No, the Cavs were I don't even want to say they were as good as they were during those runs because they may have been better. And I know Jason and I may do an episode where we go kind of a deeper dive into them, but they're above and beyond their shooting. If you watch those games and watch their defensive rotations,
Oh my goodness!
the way they cover for each other, the way they're contesting shots, the way they're chasing down
Right.
rebounds, like they haven't
Well,
done it to that level all
I
year.
loved watching Jared Allen just get his own this last game in that
Yeah.
first half. I mean, he put up full game numbers in like the first
Yeah,
quarter.
6 steals in the first half.
Right. That was a lot of fun to watch. He definitely has always been one of like my favorites. You just never know what you're going to get from him, but he's always like the most underrated move I think we've made in a long time was bringing him in. But
Their whole team has a culture that is just guys you can't help but like.
right. No,
and
I agree.
he's at the top of that list.
Yeah, it's the
I mean,
fro.
you know,
And he's always
as
got a
nerdy
smile.
as
I
nerdy
mean,
gets.
yeah. Oh, I was gonna say he's always smiling and just
Yeah.
such a clean cut guy. I mean, he's awesome.
It
He's
was
a lot of
nice
fun.
to see them like put a team away, like
Right.
actually break. You could see Miami be broken
Right.
in that
Well,
last game.
So I've been texting you guys. They haven't shown. They get up and they let teams back. They haven't stepped on a neck,
yeah,
so to speak.
yeah.
But you're
Right.
absolutely right. They did that these last 2 games, and it was
It was in such
Something
good
to watch.
fashion. I was listening to somebody from one of the national stations, one of ESPN's radio, like the national ones, and they were talking about how the guy was a Miami fan. He goes, I just can't help but not like these guys. Like I just like them. And it was to the tune of like you're getting beat in your own house, and their fans were actually cheering
Yeah,
for us
yeah.
at one point. I was like,
Yeah.
yes, we're punching you in the mouth, but in a very gently, nice way. I
Yeah.
mean,
they play the
hugging
game
you
and
at
they
the
play
same
it the
time.
right way.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
they're not. If you watch Golden State and Houston,
Right.
that's a totally different type of
Very
series.
chippy.
Draymond.
Everything is,
Yeah.
you know, to the nth degree. Everything is, you know, getting back at the last guy and creating the next chip.
Right.
Yep.
The Cavs just play the right way. They're fun to watch. When they play that way,
Right.
they're fun to watch. And even as a fan of a different team, you can't help but like the
Yep.
way they play.
Well, yeah, it's clean. The transitions are nice. The big plays are
They
nice.
share the ball.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Fun to watch.
It's awesome. You're talking about the Golden State Warriors team. You know, when you put a freaking bad apple like Draymond Green, who's always in your ear and always it hurts. You like want to go out there and you want to see teams demoralize him because of the trash talking he does on the outside of there. I was just talking to somebody the other day about him in particular because I feel like he's kind of the same case that we got going on with Deion Sanders right now in the NFL, where if Draymond in, whatever, 10, 15 years has I don't even know how old his kids are now. We'll just say 10, 15 just for sake of argument or whatever. If he were to have a kid that were to come into the NFL or the NBA right now, it'd be very similar to the same scenario as what we just went through with this whole thing, because you see the guy on a daily basis. You see him on his podcast. He's blasting people. He's putting people down. I think he's a good dude. And anybody on Golden State that plays with him, for the most part,
Jordan Poole.
Well, I'm just going to say, for the most part, they
Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
They seem to claim that he's a good teammate and stuff, but it's one of those things where it's like, would you take Draymond Green's son, even if he was one of the best in the business, if it meant having to deal with his dad? And I think we just experienced that this last weekend with Shedeur Sanders. Yeah. People say great teammate, but when you look at the NFL right now, what the makeup is, these players that played against him, they hated Deion, and the people that are now in charge of everything that's going on, and they're running as GMs and they're running as coaches or coaching staffs, they're all from that era that played with Deion. So brings me into my next topic here of the draft.
Wow, that was a great transition.
Yeah, but that means we're done talking about the Cavs.
Well, they're doing what they're supposed to do.
All right.
So
More on the Cavs later.
Right. So it brings me to my next transition of the Cleveland Browns in the draft that we just had. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did not get to go to the draft party like you guys went to. I had a senior banquet for my son, and I sat here on the couch and I watched it. And I'm going to give you my perspective.
You watched the banquet from the couch?
I wish I could have. Holy smoke. I had a few more waters.
Yeah. Adult waters.
But I didn't get to be there and see, all of that. I was actually super bummed because I'm a huge Journey fan, and they had Journey there that night, and that would have been a lot of fun to see. But I'm going to start this off. I'm going to ruffle feathers right away. But I have a question for you both since you went there. But I'm going to tell you a story. Not really a story. I'm just going to give you my heart. We were watching the draft, and I see us trade out of the pick. My instant gut was, oh, shoot, we're screwing this up. Then all of a sudden, they flashed on the screen that we got a first round for next year. And my mind went, holy crap. That's huge. We had Deshaun Watson for 3 years. We lost all of our draft picks. Now this year I get to make essentially 2 first-round picks because my second-round pick is close enough to the next round to be considered that. And I get to make a first-round pick. And I got another second-round pick out of this year's draft. And I get the first round next year, which, guess what, guys? Jacksonville might suck still. And that might be
or they might be the Jacksonville of the year before they went to the playoffs.
Or they might be not. I mean, we could look at it from both ways. Is your glass half full or glass half empty? Mine's half full right now. So
technically it's half empty because you think Jacksonville will suck.
I do think they'll suck. They haven't done anything very well lately. Anyways.
They were a 4-win team last year. So
right. So I look at that and I say, geez, that's great. And then they go and they lock up Mason Graham, who, by the way, was the 3rd best player in the draft as far as the way that he was graded. And we got him with the number 5 pick. I'm excited. The kids that I'm sitting with, my boys, are sitting here. We're excited. We see all this kind of stuff. Our text group blows up. Please tell me what the feeling was in Cleveland that night when we traded the pick to allow Travis Hunter to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars from the 2 people that were present at the draft party.
I'll start. And first of all, the draft party was really cool. Journey and the concert was really good. I was a little shocked with Asian Steve Perry.
Yeah, he's a baller.
Wildly impressed.
Yeah, he's a baller, and he's like 2 feet tall. I mean,
and the energy.
Awesome.
Yeah, he had.
You could upset some like legit true Journey fans if you were to say that he sounds just as good as the original.
I'm telling you,
but he's darn close.
If I closed my eyes, you couldn't tell the difference. And
until you see his face, then you can't not see his face.
You can't unsee it. Right?
Asian Perry, is that what they call him?
Yeah. It was so that was really cool. But I'm not gonna lie, I was a Travis Hunter guy. We all were going into the draft,
right.
So to say that I personally was disappointed is an understatement. And the atmosphere in the stadium was, I mean, all the energy basically got sucked out of the stadium.
Punch straight in the stomach.
Yeah, it was.
Even Journey couldn't bring you back.
No. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Funny, not funny. Drew and I were standing next to each other, and I said, imagine after Tennessee picks, we see trade come up, and we both kind of
back up, because we, even before the draft started, we said the most Browns thing to do would be to trade the pick and draft Mason Graham.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
scripted.
after Jacksonville comes up, he says, imagine this stadium and trade comes up on the screen, and not 30 seconds later, trade everywhere, all around the stadium. And
all
everybody, the whole stadium goes, oh.
and you saw, I don't know how many people were there, 25, 30, 40,000. I don't know. It was a lot of people.
There was a lot.
There was a lot in Green Bay too. Oh my gosh. I think they said they had like almost 250,000 in one space.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I digress. Good.
But the stadium, I mean, initially probably a quarter of the people left. Like, I don't know if they left.
I would say at least a quarter.
Yeah, I don't know if they left, but they were off the field and out of the stands.
As soon as the trade was announced.
Yeah.
Not having it.
Yeah. And, then the pick comes for Mason Graham, and I'll give you my opinion on the draft here in a minute, but initially, let's face it, defensive line, offensive line, not sexy picks.
Right.
They're just not sexy picks. And, you got 30,000 people jamming to Journey, expecting
all hyped up, pumped up.
Yeah.
ready to go.
And
ready to get that new flash.
Yeah. So it was kind of a kick that, overall, I'd say it was a really cool experience. I think the Browns did a good job for the fans, putting the draft party on. So kudos to them for that. That was
But I
really
would
cool.
say good luck getting those people to come back next year.
Yeah, that could be, I don't know if that could be problematic.
You're
or not.
crazy.
I guess
You're
we'll
crazy.
know.
It's the Browns draft. People are coming back. That's the only thing we live for. We live to be disappointed year in and year out.
This is our Super Bowl. So
10 guys on the board that we all think are the best available person, and like the 12th players who we end up taking.
Yeah. So that's my take of the overall feeling. I was kind of in a state of shock. My phone was blowing up from everybody that I know. Like, oh my God, we traded the pick, Mason Graham. What do you think? Initially I was disappointed. I didn't agree with it. If it were me making the call, in the position that the Browns were in with, scoring, less than 17 points a game,
right.
Struggles on offense, my pick would have been Travis Hunter, hands down. And if I had to do it right now again, I think it would still be Travis Hunter. However, reflecting on the draft after 3 or 4 days here from round one, of all the things we needed, and there are holes on this team, of all the things we needed, in my mind, defensive line was one of the lower priorities. It was a priority, but it was a lower priority. That being said, Mason Graham is a stud.
Yeah.
He's going to be, in my opinion, and Drew and I, we've talked about this. I think he's going to be a 3-down player.
Yeah, I do too.
I think he's going to be a 3-down player from day one. That's my opinion. And I think the theme of the draft for the Browns this year, after taking some time to really look at it as a entire process, the theme is immediate contributions.
Yeah.
And I see five of our
it's like
7.
we're in like rebuild mode, but rebuild as in this offseason we get better for this season, not 5 years from now.
And Drew, I think, is probably going to talk a little bit more about prior drafts.
Well, Drew's going to talk a lot.
Yeah.
I can tell you that right now.
But, when I look at this draft class compared to draft classes from 2020 all the way through 2024, we have 5 legitimate
Right.
immediate impact players.
Right.
And I'm not talking about the 2 quarterbacks. That's a whole nother topic for me.
Can you define impact?
Better than what we had last year.
I'm saying getting quality, consistent playing time from game one. And I see both defensive players that we took in the first and second round getting immediate impact starting. Both running backs.
I was going to say, yeah, how does Judkins? Oh, I forgot about that guy. Yeah, I forgot about the other running back.
Yeah,
Samson.
from Tennessee. I'm telling you.
Where did we take him?
But
We took him in the 4th round.
Do
Right
you think
before-
he beats out Jerome Ford?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I don't even think. I think
Yes.
Jerome Ford's in the last year of his contract right now. I think that's definitely.
Yeah, I really do.
I do think so too. I think he's more shifty, and he's what we thought Jerome Ford was going to be. Now that's the other thing too, is when you see a lot of these guys play in college, and you think, oh, that guy's going to be this, that, or the other. But he did do it at a pretty high level.
And listen, I know you can't take college trophies and college awards and translate that to really good NFL players.
He looked good.
But of our 7 draft picks, there's a lot of college awards. This is a quality draft, in my opinion, based on how these 7 individuals performed at the collegiate level. And I see 5, that tight end from Bowling Green. First of all, he's a Canton boy, went to Bowling Green. He is not your prototypical tight end. He's more of a hybrid.
Yeah, he's like a Josh Gordon tight end almost. I mean, I was watching some stuff too, and I couldn't believe jumping over dudes, but like burning down the sideline too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's legit.
I see him making a big impact. I think he'll be a day one contributor. I personally, I don't see either one of the quarterbacks being a day one contributor.
No.
I don't think that's in the cards.
No.
That's a whole nother topic though, maybe down the line, but with some reflection, I give this draft an overall a B plus. The Mason Graham, while I was disappointed initially, I think
Better move.
I really do, because again, we can have some back and forth about this, but
the whole time you're talking, I'm debating, should I go next with my opinion to let him just have a whole segment of his own to break us both down, or should I let him go and try to counter anything he says?
Well,
Drew's purposely being very quiet right now.
Well,
I think his
when we're
pen's
sitting
about
at
out of ink as well, by the way.
we're sitting at the stadium, first of
Just
all,
listening.
prior to the trade, we're all down on the field, right? All hyped up watching the
Right.
Jumbotron on the field at
Right.
the stadium. It was really cool.
That energy's pretty sweet.
And then the trade comes in and we're like, wah, wah, So we go into the stands in the end zone and we're sitting down and, we're like, okay, we got the 5th pick. Is it going to be Genty or is it going to be Mason Graham?
I was I'll be honest with you. When they said Mason Graham, I was like,
Yeah.
I wasn't upset with the trade. I wasn't upset with the trade down, but I thought for sure
Yeah. It was
they
gonna
were
be
happy
Genty.
enough with Genty that they
Yeah.
were going to take him, and that would have been
Well, it was either
ridiculous.
Genty or the wide receiver, right? T-Mac, yeah. So we were like, okay, but or potentially another trade down.
Right.
Were we going to trade
I
back
heard,
to
I
10?
heard we were going down to 10. That's when I was like, okay, I can't handle 10. I can handle
There was
I can
talk.
handle one trade down, but there's anybody in the top
See,
10.
I
that
actually
I'm-
would have been better with a trade down to 10.
You just didn't like Mason Graham though, right?
I'll get into it.
Yeah,
But I
So-
would have been better with a trade down to 10.
yeah. So I overall, like I said, I think it's a solid B plus. I think we got 5 contributors. We had holes that needed to be filled. We filled some of them. Some of the head scratchers. Obviously, we took 2 quarterbacks and we didn't take any wide receivers. We have a need at
Right.
wide receiver. We didn't take any wide receivers. We have a needed offensive tackle. We didn't take any offensive
Right.
tackles. But again, the whole draft process for me, was kind of neat to see how it unfolded because, you take a guy like Judkins, for instance, who, when we did all those mocks and all those projections, he wasn't rated at 33 or 36, but he wasn't going to be there at 67.
Right.
That's
Right.
that's
You're
the
going to have
thing.
to move to get him.
So
Where did we take the Tennessee kid again? Was that after?
yeah, we took
Brandon?
round 4, pick 24,
Was
and
it After Gabriel?
after Gabriel.
In between. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What was his name again?
Dylan Sampson.
Samson. That's right.
And so my second cousin's husband is a huge Tennessee fan. Shout out to Nathan. And so that pick happened, and he texted me like right as soon as the name hit the board that we got an absolute stud. So SEC Offensive Player of the Year, broke all kinds of Tennessee rushing records. Just an absolute gem.
Yeah, I'm
You
excited
know,
to see him.
So, I think the combination, and the nice thing for Judkins is coming from Ohio State where he split time with Travion,
Right.
And still got 1,000 yards. And, so I think coming into a system where we've typically, when we've been healthy, we're typically a 2 running back system.
Right.
We like to have that complement. So I'm excited to see how that works out. My take on the Dylan Gabriel pick, that was a head scratcher. I didn't see that one
Yeah,
coming, but
that still doesn't make any sense to me.
but evidently, he was high on their radar. And
I heard this. I didn't even share this with you guys, but Tony Grossi was able to get a hold of their quarterback grading system, and they had him ranked over Jalen Milroe. Like Jalen Milroe was never the guy. It was always Gabriel before Milroe, and that I don't know if that terrified me a little bit inside.
I've heard some more about that. They were all through the process. They were having more secret meetings alongside the mass meetings with him, and that they went and like visited him, but they were doing everything kind of incognito.
Yeah, I did hear that too.
And that's why nothing got out. They kept it under wraps. And so I think that's why that pick surprised everybody.
Yeah.
Is because nobody saw it coming because they worked hard to hide it.
Yeah.
Which is super weird to me too. Like,
Well, because otherwise somebody else might take them
but
to keep you from getting them.
But I guess coming into this draft, though, like that guy was one of the ones that you would have thought would have gone undrafted. I don't think anybody had him rated high enough to be like, we have to sneak around and hide. Like that's just the whole thing's just weird to me because it's like they overvalued something that wasn't really worth overvaluing,
I think it was, more of the media is portraying us to be high on Shedeur Sanders.
Right.
The media is portraying us to be, all this rumors about Tyler Shuck and Jackson Dart and all the other quarterbacks. And, all along it was Dylan Gabriel.
Right.
And, again, you can't translate all the college accolades to the professional level, but, Dylan Gabriel has all the college accolades.
Right.
He's like,
Well, the interesting part. Sorry,
Go ahead.
go ahead. No, I was gonna say is when you're talking about his accolades and him, he is like a left-handed Baker.
I was thinking like almost like that and Russell Wilson, like a
And
hybrid.
Right, but there's still quarterbacks that rely on they drop back, but then rely on using the pocket or rolling out
Right.
to get past the line because they're smaller. Well, that's not Kevin's offense. Now he tailored some of it to Baker so
Right.
Baker could get the rollout and bootlegs and things, but still you'd be rechanging our offense back to what it used to be to
Right.
fit his style more than what
and I
Kevin
wonder-
seems to want.
I see what you're saying, and I have no way to argue it except the fact that it seems like that a 3rd round pick for a quarterback Kevin would have been involved in, and I don't know. I guess maybe we'll find out more as the years go on. How this whole thing went. The Shedeur Sanders one. I think they explained it pretty clearly in the press conference by. It was a value pick at that point.
Mhm.
He fell far enough down that they were like, okay, it's a value pick at this
Yeah.
point. And I don't know. I didn't think he was a 1st round talent. I thought 2nd or beyond. And, to get him in the 5th round, if he doesn't work out, okay.
Right. That's
Drew has a list and probably somewhere in that stack of papers there of all the 5th round picks that haven't worked out in
Right.
since 1999. So, if he doesn't work out, no harm, no foul in the 5th
Right.
round.
And if he
in my
does work
opinion.
out,
yeah,
we look like geniuses.
Well, you know, he's
We-
got a
we
chip
need
on his
that.
That
shoulder.
would be a first.
We need that every once in a while.
Yeah.
A little pat on the back. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, so I'm not mad about the pick. I'm a little, I don't even want to say concerned, but it'll be interesting to see how camp goes.
Yeah.
They didn't pick up Kenny Pickett's 5th round option. I thought maybe that was an indicator, but the more I read and researched it, I don't think we were ever intending on picking up that 5th year. It was like $22 million or something.
I think
Yeah,
this
those
is
are usually like an average
Yeah,
of their position, I think based on their draft.
yeah, and how much
But-
playing time?
Right. And so it was always going to be a higher amount because you're
Yeah.
aggregating.
Yeah.
And he's, as far as I'm concerned, unproven with us.
right.
So to pay him $22 million
Right.
for a
You
5th
need to
year,
see at
is-
least a half a year
yeah.
out of
so
him. See what you get.
So we didn't pick up his 5th year. We're still on the hook for one more year with Massage Boy.
Rubber dub dub.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that quarterback room develops.
Did you guys
this
see
year.
that video, by the way, that I sent? You remember the old, what was it? The Jackie Chan, Chris Tucker movie,
Rush hour.
Rush Hour, when they go to the place where they say Asian, like they're going to get an Asian massage at the massage parlor.
No,
Well, somebody took the face of Deshaun Watson and Shador and put him on there, and it said, "This is Deshaun Watson leading Shador around town."
Yeah. We do not want that kind of
No.
mentorship here.
I'm
God
on
almighty.
vacation, man. I want some moose shoe.
Right.
Ain't nobody understand the words that are coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, that made me laugh pretty hard.
Yeah.
I think when you're talking about the Kenny Pickett thing, this is probably the most bizarre quarterback room that I think I've witnessed as a Browns fan yet. You got a 6'5", 40-year-old.
Yep.
You've got Kenny
Stud,
Pickett.
by the way. Joe
I'm
Flacco,
not saying
stud.
he's not a stud. I'm just saying, like, when you look at there's not one, like, a lot of times when you look at quarterback rooms, you see guys that look pretty much the same way as far as the type of player,
Yeah.
the style of play. Not one of these guys
No.
is the same. I mean, Kenny Pickett is, I don't know what he's going to be, to be honest with you, because he was a winning quarterback in Pittsburgh, but not a very pretty. It wasn't like they won games because of him. They won games in spite of him, a lot of
And their
times.
defense won games and their offense didn't get in the way. That's, again, Matt Canada ruined him. Maybe he, took that year in Philly and rejuvenated,
Right.
and obviously we saw something, our management team saw something in him and said, let's bring this kid in.
Right.
And again, cheap.
They're talking like it'll be a battle, but they're saying it's leaning more towards like Pickett's going to be our day one starter, which is crazy to me still.
Well, won't happen.
I hope not.
I think. Well, let me ask you guys: do we go into even preseason with 4 quarterbacks on the roster?
I think you have to. I think they
Do you
do
go
that till
into
at least.
game 1?
No,
with
not.
4 quarterbacks?
I don't think you have 4 on the roster
think-
for game 1.
So,
I think somebody gets traded.
and
remember
who's the
this.
only logical choice to get traded?
Joe
would
Flacco.
be Kenny
Kenny Pickett.
Nobody's going to want to trade for Flacco.
I'm
Right.
kidding.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is I think he's the only logical choice to get anything in return.
Yeah.
Maybe
You know,
highlight
unless you
him a
go
lot
into the
and then
preseason and Dylan Gabriel balls out and just throw him for
blows all
3.
of our mind.
Yeah,
And
and,
they-
somebody
they
says,
offload.
"Hey, I'll
I'll
give
take
you."
Shador.
It's even
But
well,
we spend a third on him. What are we going? We're not going to give him up for anything less than that when he's has no time.
when you look at the room there again, Dylan Gabriel, 5'10",
5'11".
left-handed.
Hmm?
Like that's a whole different.
It changes our
surface of
complete-
the whole
So
offense.
somebody did say, which again leads to maybe they're thinking. You were talking about not drafting a tackle.
Yeah.
And they were saying, pointing out that our best tackle is our right tackle.
Mhm.
Just so happens we have a left-handed quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
So that actually protects his blind spot for this year. And then
I'm just glad
so.
we have somebody that they say is a good right tackle.
Well, no, he's not good. He's just our best.
Okay.
I didn't say good.
Well, that's I
Good
was
did not come out.
I was
We're,
talking to you
we're,
guys
we're comparing things like like liver and
brisket.
Yeah.
no, brisket's good.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Cow tongue and frog legs. We're not comparing filet mignon and
Yeah.
I was talking about with that whole tackle situation. You got Jones, and they just brought this kid in from Washington, who's another 6'8", 6'9", behemoth of a man. And it's almost like they built this offensive line to throw them on either side
Yeah.
and just say, you're left A and you're left B. Like,
Right now we have a left-handed quarterback. Right now we have a right-handed
basically
quarterback.
just be big.
Yeah.
I remember when the Browns way back in the day brought in Kevin Schaefer from the Atlanta Falcons, and I was so pumped because we hadn't had a legit left tackle in years, and they brought him in. Well, that was when I learned that he was the left tackle for Michael Vick. And so when they brought him in,
That's very different.
he was not the blindside guy, and he sucked. And they actually did end up moving him to right tackle, but I was like so excited that they were bringing him in, and that really bummed me out when he was terrible.
Having a left-handed quarterback really does change everything.
Everything. Like that's why it was so bizarre to me. I guess I didn't realize.
I
he
mean,
was
it changes the
left-handed until
wide
that day.
receivers' routes.
Right.
You know,
When they
now
break
because you're
and-
flipping every play.
Right.
So now, you know,
I mean,
I've been running this route in. Now
I don't
I'm
wanna
running from
throw-
the other side.
Too much history at you guys, but you do remember Super Bowl Joe Montana
Right.
and who was the quarterback after Joe Montana that took
Steve
the
Young.
49 left-handed Steve Young, same receiving core,
Okay, so
same playbook, same coaching
Steve
staff.
Walsh.
Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame receivers, Hall of Fame running back, Hall of Fame quarterback.
Hall of
And
Fame
another
line,
Hall of Fame quarterback.
Deion Sanders.
Yeah, like that's.
somewhere-
I mean, it's not quite apples to apples, but
No,
I see where you're
saying
going.
you say the receivers have to run different.
Yeah, but a
It's,
Hall of
it's
Fame.
been done before.
It has by the greatest ever.
Well,
We're there. We're close.
We have Jamari Thrash.
Dylan Gabriel has the chance to be the greatest
And
ever
Deontay
left-handed quarterback in Cleveland
This year.
this year.
This year, right? Because he's the only left-handed
Right.
quarterback.
Correct.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So
Should I give my 2 cents or no?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I have my opinions on the draft. I did like Travis Hunter going into it. I was never sold on either one of the Colorado kids, but there wasn't another guy that I wanted more than Travis Hunter. I've got my flaws with the system with that, and it's a lot of what people talk about with look at the competition, what Colorado had to deal with. I understand the kid's a freaking athlete, and I don't question that whatsoever. I'm gonna say this the best way I can. He's trying to come into the NFL and do something that no NFLer has ever done before. He wants to play both ways. I've listened to GMs and coaches say that there's not enough time in the day to learn both sides of the ball efficiently. I do think that he is a stud of an athlete, and I do hope that he turns out to be everything that he is, listed to be. But I also think that being where we are, if he turns out to be an absolute bust and we take that with our first pick in this year's draft, it's just another setback from all the other stuff. Does that mean Mason Graham could be a bust? Yes, absolutely. Does it mean he's going to be? No. Does it more likely that Travis Hunter will be one? I actually think that it is. So when I look at it from that perspective, that Travis Hunter could potentially just be an absolute joke coming up here, because that's a big responsibility, and you've never done it against the competition. So that's my only thing that I was nervous about with that. So to take the safe pick in Mason Graham kind of goes back to the same thing with Deshaun Watson. He screwed us all. That whole trade is got to be maybe not even in NFL, 100% not in the Browns, but in just the history of sports, that probably has gone down as the worst trade in sports history. I mean, the guy did nothing for us. He screwed us out of draft picks all these years, and now he's made it to the point where we have to go draft a defensive tackle to play safe because we can't afford to have the nice, fun toys. So we have to watch other people pick up the nice, fun toys because they can't afford to take risks because they've got people in those places to take those. So while it sucked, I understood it and I get it. And to pick up that extra first round, I think that was, for a non-quarterback player, somebody traded up and gave you a first round. That's kind of just unheard of. So they thought that was huge. To pick up a second round pick in this draft allowed you to have that flexibility, because we talked about that. There's a lot of talent in those lower tiers of the draft that if you can get more picks to get in there and get some of those out of there, there was a lot of players to be picked up. So when I look at the overall draft, we mentioned in the show right before the draft, who are your 3 players or just some players that you'd be disappointed if you didn't get. Mine was one of the running backs from Ohio State. I was going to be disappointed if I didn't get them. Drew's was the tight end from Bowling Green, right? What was yours? You wanted Hampton, right?
I don't remember what I said.
But I guess what I was looking at was there was some confusion for me on the draft. I thought we took Judkins way too high, but like you said, he wasn't going to be there later on. I was a little shocked by the linebacker pickup. I wasn't expecting that. I hadn't heard his name anywhere. But then when I went and looked into him, I was stoked about this kid. I mean, he was also the second highest rated linebacker in the draft, and he fell into the second round. So that was big. The kid is huge. He's very big. He's very quick. He's got very good instincts. He's a solid pickup. And I think that'll be really nice in the Browns defensive system that we run right now. I guess what I was looking at was when I look at the overall players that we got out of this draft, if I were to take them now and rearrange the order that we got them in, because there was a couple, like the Dylan Gabriel, I don't know that I hate the pick of him. I just don't like where we got him at. That was such a weird place to pick him up. But if I were to drop him down to where we ended up drafting Sanders, it'd be kind of like, okay, well, that makes sense. You know, we're going to get this kid. We're going to try him out in camp and see what he is. Sanders, however, falling to us all the way down into the 5th round, there's been something about him that I like, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't think that he is quite the height that everybody else is. I haven't jumped on that train as much, but I also think that there's something there. The dude comes from bloodlines that are ridiculous, pure athletic talent, just grit, the experience. We've talked about that. You know, the fact that he's grown up around this type of atmosphere. His dad is who he is. There's something about that I really enjoy, and I like that whole thought. To drop down and get him in that 2nd round, I think would have been too high for him to fall all the way down to the 5th round. Yeah, you have to take him. You know, like we said, if you miss, who cares? If you don't, if he works out, then we look like geniuses. But if I were to rearrange the order of all of these and put them in, you know, where we thought they should have been, I would have been just as happy with the same crew of guys that we got. Disappointed in the wide receiver. Yeah, that sucks. We didn't get one of those, but there's still time to maybe make a trade or pick up another free agent. We got Deontay Johnson, which, whatever, is what he is. Offensive line.
On a side note, did you guys hear about Elijah Moore?
I did.
Yeah, that they not restructured, but they picked up or something.
So it's basically a tender. So he has until May 1st.
Yeah, because J.K. Dobbins has the same thing that the
with the Chargers.
Yeah,
yeah, he has till May 1st to sign a contract with another team, and he was visiting with Buffalo. If he doesn't sign a contract with another team by May 1st, he becomes a Cleveland Brown for just under $3.5 million.
Oh, jeez.
So
well played.
Yeah. So if he is signed, I believe we get a compensatory pick next year.
Nice.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So that would be nice.
It's a win-win, really.
Right, because that would add, you don't have to spend a bunch of money to get
That's
him back.
your slot receiver.
And you get
Travis
another guy
Hunter
back in there.
Your outside. Oh,
whatever.
Sorry.
So like I said, when I look at the overall players that we picked up, I'd be right there with Jay. I'm at a A-, B+, you know, somewhere in that ballpark with all this kind of stuff. I feel like the Sanders pick kind of sealed the deal for me because the dude's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's competitive as all get out. I really am anxious to see what comes of all of that. And I'm not going to get all up into the feelings about it. You know, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, I mean, it would be what crazy, awesome story would that be, you know, for him to work it out here with the Browns after your dad went on national TV and basically said, there's 3 teams I want my son to play for, and the Browns are definitely not one of them. Okay, well, how's that taste?
We'll find out.
Yeah. He
So let me raise one thing about Travis Hunter. And so I was listening to a former NFL DB, and this was pre-draft, and they were asking him about the potential for Hunter to play wide receiver and cornerback. Actually, it was 2. I won't say their names, but they're 2 local guys.
Cop out.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
you know, There were two of them. They were together. They were talking. Both corner. Well, one was more safety. The other was a corner. And they were talking about, as a wide receiver, that you need to be there getting reps. You need to be there to get practice. But somebody like Travis Hunter, they can bring him in on certain plays and certain possessions,
Right.
and just say he's talented enough. Just go guard that guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be in practice for that. Just go
Not
guard that
necessarily
guy.
learn
He
a
can go
whole
lock
system.
that guy
Yeah.
down. That's his job. Now, does that create issues where they know, he's man on man kind of thing? Well, whatever. But I'm saying it's in their words as former NFL cornerbacks and
Right.
safeties, that it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility
For him to just go
to
out there
do
and-
both.
Yeah.
You just would simplify his package on defense
Right.
and make it simple.
And I'm not saying he can't do both. I'm just saying that the risk versus reward, Deshaun Watson screwed that for us all. Like, we don't get to be able to have the fun and take the fun players. We have to sit here and take Mason Graham's, which are safe picks, if you will, because he's big. All you have to do is
He's not
stand
big.
there. He's big enough.
Well, that'll be my part.
Well, I'm done. I'm done with my part. So if we all just want to go take a bathroom break now and let Drew just vent here for a minute.
Okay. So
Wait, toss me one of those cookies while we're waiting.
pick your own.
That one works.
All right. So before I get into this, most of the draft for me was marred in what happened on Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay. But I want to give a shout out to my son's soccer team, the Canton Akron United Force 2011 boys team, because at least while I was lamenting the draft, I was able to watch them win all 4 games and win the tournament championship. So
Soften the blow.
soften the blow a little bit, yes. So that was good. He got a medal.
Way to
Team
go,
was
Drake.
excited. So, and I actually played really well this weekend.
Good job, Drake.
So, all that
Those of you
being
that
said,
didn't catch that name, that was
the team?
Yeah.
The Canton Akron United Force, the 2011 boys ECNL RL team.
good Lord.
Yes. You could actually flip flop those and do it either way.
You have to be
Also
a
known
well-educated
as the,
player to be able to play there just so you can.
EFGH.
Yeah, you have to be a well-educated player to play for that team just so you can say the name.
Correct. Yes. Lots of letters, lots of words, and some numbers thrown in.
English is hard.
Do you want
So-
my head to explode?
So, we're at the draft party, and we're talking and discussing Hunter, and I made the statement that if they didn't draft, I was so confident they would draft Hunter, because how can you screw up the second pick in the draft? You get your pick of everybody but one.
You take the second best player.
Right. You just, hey. And maybe somebody's out there. And there's some that maybe teeter-totter between Abdul and Travis Hunter, but pretty much a consensus that not only was Travis Hunter the most talented player in the draft, but he's a generational talent. And those words being used. And that's why last time, we were at the draft when the trade happened. I was referencing, you're giving up on a guy, on a LeBron James, on a Peyton Manning, not in terms of their guaranteed success, but LeBron wasn't. He could have just as easily been, a Anthony Bennett or Kwame Brown. Right. Somebody came from high school and it was too much for him, and so, but the talent was there enough where you could have offered the Cleveland Cavaliers your first round pick ad infinitum forever, and they wouldn't have traded that because LeBron was that good. To me, that's Travis Hunter. And you've got a guy who not only was a Heisman winner, which Jason, Heisman's aren't, some of them are busts, but then he references all the awards that our players that we did draft
Reggie
win.
Bush.
Okay. He was pretty good.
Meh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But he not only was he a Heisman winner, he was a wide receiver with over 100 catches, tops up in the top half of the nation in terms of receiving yards, 22 total touchdowns. He was also one of the top cornerbacks. So not only do you get a guy who's a generational type talent, but now you get a guy who potentially can play two positions. And guess what? If he's not good at one, you can play him at the other. And if he's not good at this one, you can play him at this one. You get two options. You can't take Mason Graham and make him a wide receiver. You can't make him a linebacker. You can't.
A guard.
Well, you can't.
We need those.
We do need those. Okay. So when the trade happened, it was just Andrew Berry being Andrew Berry being Andrew Berry. Give me the assets so I can screw them up.
Allegedly.
I'm going to read you a list of names here. Now, first list, okay, I'll explain what they are. Marcus Spriggs. It'll make sense as I go. The names will be familiar. Gerard Warren, Iman Gondon, Andrew Hoffman, Babatunde Oshinawo, Ataiba Rubin, Phil Taylor. Very significant, that one. Billy Wynn.
Can't blame
John
all these
Hughes.
on Barry.
I'm not. I'm
Just saying
bear
this
with
is a
me.
Browns thing.
John Hughes, Xavier Cooper, Caleb Brantley, Larry Ogunjobi, Jordan Elliott, Tommy Togiai, Perrion Winfrey, Michael Hall, and Mason Graham.
You can't put Michael Hall on that list yet.
What I can say is I love him. I hope he's great. He's a Buckeye. But he gets here and immediately gets suspended.
Allegedly.
No,
Oh,
he
no.
got suspended.
I thought you were going to say something else.
No, he got suspended.
They're going to say he beat up his girlfriend.
No.
I was going to say allegedly.
Well, that's alleged, but he did get suspended.
Because technically we don't know the truth behind
So-
that. It's kind of like the OJ trial.
So those are our defensive tackles that we've drafted since 1999.
Mhm.
We have a horrible track record of defensive tackles.
This one was different.
That's what they say about all of them. Now,
Which
under
one's next?
Andrew Berry, Jordan Elliott, gone. Tommy Togiai, gone. Perrion Winfrey, gone. Okay? Those are in successive years. Now, Michael Hall was his next one, and Jawan Briggs. They've only had a year. But those other guys, he's not even on here? I don't know where he went. Siaka Ika.
He was 2021.
No, I know. He would still be on this list. I don't know. I must have deleted him by accident. So there's another one, gone.
How you delete somebody from your paper?
Well, I had an Excel list, and I
You
was
mean like
dwindling all
erase?
the drafts, the picks.
Gotcha.
It was a
So-
rage delete.
Yeah, it probably was.
You're
Um,
not here anymore.
Goodbye. So, Andrew Berry's track record in drafting defensive tackles,
Mhm.
horrendous. All right, well, maybe he's good somewhere else. Here's our defensive tackles we've gotten by free agency since he's been here. Olivier Vernon, Andrew Billings, Adrian Claiborne. Some of these are defensive ends, but still. Jadeveon Clowney, Malik McDowell, Sheldon Day, Malik Jackson, Taven Bryan, Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, Maurice Hurst, Quentin Jefferson. All those guys in 4 years. You know how many are on the team now?
Yeah, but they're all old.
Other than Andrew and Adrian, I guess
Mo
some of them.
Hurst.
But still, how many of those stayed more than 1 or 2 years?
I think we saw a couple of them right now.
No, Shelby Harris, that's it.
And Dalvin Thompson.
No, we don't. Bye-bye.
Where'd he go?
Gone.
Zadarius was there for 2 years.
Yeah, I don't even have
Clowney
him-
was
I didn't
there
have
for
him on
2
here.
years.
Yeah, we signed
that's
him
why
to
he doesn't
one-year
have
Tomlinson
one
was there
contracts.
for 2 years.
Yep.
So, but
But
you know,
none of them,
you've got
none
a
of them,
legitimate point.
none of
I
them,
mean-
none of them did anything. None of them were productive. Now, then you add in the fact that Jim Schwartz, his whole philosophy on defensive tackles is rotate and keep them fresh. Rotate, keep them fresh. Rotate, keep them fresh. So now you've got Mason Graham, He's only going to play 20 snaps, maybe 30 a game.
No.
They're rotating. That's the whole.
Because they didn't have Mason Graham yet.
Right.
Okay.
And Michael was fighting legal battles,
go ahead.
allegedly.
I was just going to say, Barry hasn't had, and again, I'm not defending his track record in drafting because it sucked, but we haven't had a first round pick to take a top 5
Hold on.
consensus number 1 defensive line.
He's had 5 first-round draft picks.
we haven't
Jed
taken-
Wills, Greg Newsome, and Deshaun Watson.
Jed Wills, Newsome, and Deshaun Watson. Yeah,
The next 3.
the next 3.
That's
He's
what
had
Deshaun-
first-round
That's what
picks.
Deshaun Watson
He's done
looks
nothing
like.
with them.
Yeah.
That's what Deshaun Watson looks
So-
like.
Even when he's not drafting,
We
he
haven't
uses
taken a
draft picks.
Deshaun
consensus
does-
number 1
hey,
defensive line.
Deshaun does that right there. Just,
Yeah.
He goes 1, 2, blam.
All right, so I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I'm getting there.
All right. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
'cause you
you're
didn't
good.
interrupt me.
No,
Sorry.
you're good. I'm getting there. No, interrupt. You're fine. So,
Hello.
so anyway, we're the draft party, and we get to the number 5 pick, and we're texting. You've got Genty, Tyler Warren, T-Mac, guys of needs.
Sanders.
Hey, you've got those 3 guys offensively that could still be impact level players. You didn't have a huge need on D tackle. And I know you guys poo-pooed this stat, but we had the 10th highest pass rush rate of defensive lines in the NFL last year. I know our run stopping was that bad. Okay, I get it. Part of that was linebacker play as well.
Right, because the defensive tackles weren't doing
Because
their
JOK
job.
got hurt,
And their defensive tackles weren't
and
doing
he
their
was the
job.
guy filling the holes. And what?
The defensive tackles weren't doing their jobs. That's what they're supposed to do, slow the run down.
Yeah.
So by the
And
time the
Alex Wright
linebacker
got
gets
hurt,
in-
and he was playing well. So some of it's injury, some of it is, but again, not our biggest need. Aston Genty would have immediately been an impact. Tyler Warren would have been an immediate crazy impact, just because of his versatility.
Mhm.
And then T-Mac as a big-bodied wide receiver, the opposite Jerry Jeudy, immediate impact. Where do we go? Maybe the least impactful position on our entire team, other than offensive line, defensive tackle, because he's only going to play. And go ahead, I'm talking. Look up who played the most snaps on the defensive line last year. I'm just curious as a D tackle. See if you can find that.
Look up injuries too.
But so anyway, so we pick him. Yeah, he was rated high, but here's my thing. All those D tackles he picked sucked. No, Michael Hall's still up in the air.
I like his name.
Yeah, she should. Andrew Berry cannot assess D tackle talent. So maybe he picked Mason Graham because, heck, I have 5th. I can pick the best one in the draft, and then I'm sure I can't miss.
Can't mess this up.
So let's get that guy because I can't draft anybody in a different
Right.
round. Is that why you picked Mason Graham? That's also why I think we didn't pick a wide receiver
Yeah, he's been pretty rough
because
with
he's
that.
awful at drafting wide receivers.
Right.
So why draft him when I can't pick him?
Yeah, maybe go find a steal in free agency.
So-
What's left? Mark Cooper still.
So
out there.
here's now, you guys were all excited, which again, is he talented? I hope he is Hall of Fame. Like I have nothing against him.
Except for he went to Michigan.
Well, that's everybody makes a mistake. But you guys are talking about his pass rush capabilities. Here's
I didn't
his
say that
scouting
pass rush.
report.
I said
You
run
guys
stop.
both did.
No, run stopper.
Run stop.
I understand that, but you guys both talked about his ability to help us in the pass.
Show me.
Rewind the tape,
I never
and
talked.
you talked about it on the ride over here. So
I didn't ever talked about
so-
Mason Graham
so
before the
he-
draft.
here's what-
There's no video evidence of this.
Yeah.
I literally
So-
never
so-
brought
so-
Mason Graham up until we drafted him.
because nobody wanted him,
Right.
Because we didn't need him.
I think we need
What we needed a guy named Travis Hunter who can go out there on either side of the
break his
ball and
leg
be
in
an
the first
impact
game 'cause
player
he's-
and play 60 to 70 snaps a game between the two sides and not 20 to 30 on the defensive line. So here's his weaknesses. Height limitations occasionally show up when longer arm tackles are able to establish first contact and control the engagement. we've got a T-Rex.
Well, he's going to be going against guards, so
I'm telling you what they wrote.
I'm just saying they're wrong.
Well, it's what they wrote. This is, I don't know, PFF, I think. Can get caught playing too high in his stance when fatigued. Great. Can't play him much. Allowing offensive linemen to get under his pads. Not good against the pass or the run. Pass rush arsenal still developing. Relies heavily on bull rush and needs to develop more consistent counter moves.
Sounds like a rookie.
Sometimes struggles to disengage quickly when offensive linemen are able to latch on to his frame. So he's a short-armed, undersized,
What are the pros?
weak. Well, that's up there.
I mean,
Anybody sounds bad when you read the
Yeah.
negatives only.
yeah.
But no, I'm saying
And those
I'm
same
going somewhere with
Mike
this.
Those
Hall
same
from the Three and Out
experts-
podcast.
I'm
Those
going
same
somewhere with
experts
this.
projected
Fat.
Shedeur Sanders to be the second pick in the
Right.
draft. So
Mike Hall from Three and Out podcast. Fat, slow, doesn't run on his own, bald,
needs a pinch runner in a wiffle ball game.
beard is graying every day more and more.
But I'm going somewhere.
Thir-
So let me get there.
31
And the last one
snaps
is a game.
was last year, 41 the year before.
Okay. But that's because
We
the
didn't have
Schwartz is
Mason
more
Graham.
established. That's what I'm saying. 20 to 30 snaps a game. That's all you're getting.
That was pre Mason Graham though.
But that's his whole defensive philosophy.
So
Hang on.
take,
So
Jordan Elliott averaged 50 snaps a game.
well, that was the year everybody
Taven
was hurt. And they
Bryan,
had to play Jordan
46.
Elliott a lot.
That was 23.
I remember that.
That was out of necessity, and that's why they signed more bodies. So, and then the last one says, could improve consistency in finishing plays. Occasionally allows runners to slip through his grasp in the backfield.
That's when they have multiple runners.
Oh, okay. Okay. All my point in reading that, does he have strengths? Absolutely. There's a reason he was ranked as high as he was, and I hope he does well. But you gave up on a guy that
Potentially.
pretty much everybody called a generational talent for a guy whose weaknesses
Are you
are
going to
pretty
read Travis
clear.
Hunter's weaknesses? Just
route running.
that's the only one.
Coverage.
That's the only one you're going to read, or that's the only one
No.
you're going to say.
No,
Route running, coverage, struggles.
his job's to go catch balls. Pause.
Yeah. Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Catch these.
But my point is, you gave up on somebody worded as a generational talent
We don't know who, but
for a
somebody
guy
did.
who has obvious glaring weaknesses as the number 5 pick. Now, the other side of that is even if you make that trade, because you get the extra second, you get the first round pick next year. I understand that in principle. You had impact level players on offense. You were the absolute worst offense in the entire NFL last year. And in the draft, you addressed one position.
But technically, we were the worst because our quarterback play was atrocious. So you've
So we had a
addressed that.
really good running game?
We didn't have a running game at all,
Correct.
and we just addressed that.
That has
too.
nothing to do with the quarterback.
But I'm just saying we just addressed that too.
Well,
You
but
went
hold
you
on.
bring in Judkins.
But did we?
Yes. You
Or
brought
could
in-
we have
you
addressed
brought
it better with Genty?
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, that's-
But you were able to get
but-
more and spread that
No,
out.
hold on,
'Cause I think
hold on. But-
Judkins will have a great year.
But hold on. Would you rather have
Yes, I would
Judkins?
rather have Judkins.
Judkins and Sampson, 2 backs, not going to play them at the same time? Because Kevin would have done it with Hunt and Chubb if that was part of his philosophy.
Right.
So, again, 30 plays a game between them each. Or would you rather have Hunter and Judkins?
I don't know if we can get Judkins.
We could have got him at 33. Hunter at 2, him at 33.
Then you don't get the linebacker.
Just bear with me. I'm not worried about defense right now. We're trying to fix the offense. Okay?
I'm just
We
saying that
just-
I don't see us.
I'm going there. I'm giving you options.
You just asked the question.
I know.
I'm saying I don't see us
all I-
taking him at 33.
I'm saying we took him in the second round. Just
Okay.
would you rather have Judkins and Sampson or Hunter and Judkins?
I don't know yet. I don't know
mean,
what Hunter's going to be.
on paper,
that's
but
my
we don't know what any of
given
them are
that
going to be.
choice- Given that choice, yeah, I would take Hunter and Judkins given that choice.
Okay. Now we lose an extra second round pick and we lose the first round pick next year.
Right.
But vastly better
Right.
offensive versatility. So would you
Potential.
rather have Ashton Genty and Luther Burden or Judkins and Sampson?
I mean, I honestly, I like the Judkins Sampson combo, but that's,
that's what
I
I'm
mean,
thinking too, because I feel like he fits.
I've kind of fallen.
Do you know
in
who
love- I've
Luther
kind of-
Burden is?
Yes. I've kind of
Receiver.
fallen the safety, right?
No, he's the wide receiver from Missouri that was highly regarded as one of the best wide receivers in the country, but he's got a little bit of a behavior.
Yeah, I don't want him.
But we just signed Deontay Johnson.
Head scratcher again.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Well,
if
his locker's right next to Dylan Gabriel
Yeah.
on their way out.
so
Wow.
we're not paying attention to the off the field stuff. We're just looking at talent.
Right.
Genty and Burden would be way more of a threat than Judkins and Sampson, and that's if we still made the same trade.
Well, just like we're able to look back on the Watson trade and see how we got fleeced by Houston, in a couple years we'll be able to look back on this and see if we got. I mean, everybody's saying we got the better end of the deal. Production's going to be. It's what it's going to come down to. You're nailing it on the head. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that Judkins at 36 outperforms Genty at 5, and we got Mason Graham as well. I mean, that's a huge win for me.
And a first round pick.
And a first round pick next year.
Well, you'd like to think that, but
Well,
you're
that's what
going
I'm
just
hoping
based
for.
on all we can go is what we know right now in this moment.
Yeah.
I hope that, Shedeur Sanders is better than Peyton Manning.
Right.
And we get him in the 5th round and we can say, hey, we pulled a Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. I mean, there's more of a chance of.
I
me
hope the
being
Browns
right than you
this
being
year.
right.
I hope this year Jamari Thrash turns into Justin Jefferson and we win the Super Bowl.
Right.
That's what I hope.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
see that happening either. But
I don't either. But
yeah,
so my other one was you can go T-Mac and Judkins. So you still make the trade and you get T-Mac and Judkins.
Yeah.
And then the other one is you don't make the trade. You still get your linebacker at 33, and then you still get Sampson way back in the 4th round,
Mhm.
and then you've got Hunter and Sampson.
I don't get
All
Judkins.
four-
I want Judkins.
I'm just saying, but all 4 of those options create a better offensive versatility than 2 backs that aren't going to play together.
It's debatable.
Some of them, you still make the trade and you get all the assets. A couple of those, you kept Hunter so you don't get the extra assets, but you get a generational
Yeah.
talent who potentially could also help you on the defensive end.
Or he could be a generational bust and not do anything. But
So here's my other question. Look at my notes here. Oh, the other one that you could have taken later in the draft if you still wanted 2 running backs was Trevor Etienne. He
Yeah.
was still there. I mean, his brother's in the NFL. He's got good.
Jags.
I mean, this was a
So-
historically deep running back class.
Right, that's what I'm saying, though. The fact that we got 2 of them is good, but I don't think you needed to.
I just don't think we have any.
Especially with what we don't have in the wide receiver room. Taking one of the decent wide receivers in the first couple rounds becomes that much more important.
But we actually have people with pulses in the building in the wide receiver room. In the running back room pre-draft, we had Jerome Ford
Dude.
and Pierre Strong. So
Right.
A couple guys that were
end
injured.
of story.
I,
That was
I, okay, but how many of those are we going to keep on the roster?
None.
And you mean the wide receivers?
No, the running backs.
No, they're gone.
You think both those? But you can't carry 2 running backs.
No, but I don't think
What did we
that
carry
Pierre
last year?
Strong's going to be there. And I've actually heard that we're still interested in J.K. Dobbins as of like today.
Yeah.
They're waiting to see what happens with that thing. That was an
I'd have to
article
look. I
brought
think
up
we kept
together.
4.
Well, but we always brought somebody up off the practice squad, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like
And-
John Kelly and things
somebody
like that.
somebody was the kick returner too.
Right.
We had a guy
But
with
we
an
have,
injury.
but that is
Samson.
the wide receiver we signed, Carter, DeAndre Carter. That's
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
returner.
Yeah.
But we right now have more Well, now we signed Deontay Johnson. But as of the draft, after we had more quarterbacks than we had active wide receivers on the roster.
Yeah.
And 2 of those wide receivers, one was out all last year with an injury, and the other had 2 catches all year. So you can't say our wide receiver room was anything but awful.
I mean, no, I
So-
can't. I mean, other than Jerry Jeudy.
But here's
Yeah.
my question. Here's my other question. We gain now. Hopefully I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong on all this. And I'm going to get to the other picks because I have.
Well, this is being recorded. So if you're
I know.
wrong, trust me.
I
I'm
know.
gonna let you know.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Just like Baker, but he's in Tampa.
Yeah.
In the long run, I wasn't wrong. I was wrong for like 8 games.
You said he was the worst thing to ever happen to Cleveland at one point.
Yeah.
He was. He was awful.
I got screenshots.
During his
I got
shoulder?
screenshots of that.
During his shoulder, he was bad.
I still think he's a system quarterback.
I like him.
Qualifier.
Though. He's a completely changed man, but that's a whole different topic.
That's a maturity thing.
I wish
He had a
we
baby.
had Tampa Baker in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I'd feel completely different.
Yeah.
But
Well, we wouldn't be drafting right now. That's for
Correct.
No.
No, 100%. But my other thing is we gain this first round pick next year. It's not guaranteed to be any particular asset.
Correct.
We don't know where it's going to fall.
Correct.
And if you had to honestly ask yourself to this point, do you trust Barry to do the right thing with that pick?
Well, here's my argument to that because I've thought about that. You know, this year we walked out of round 1 and round 2 with, again, what I consider to be 3 day 1 impact players, starters. You know,
Okay, Jed
Judkins-
Wills was a starter.
Okay. For 4 years. I don't think we picked up his 5th year, right?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
He's a free agent.
He could be coming back.
It's
too.
pretty telling that nobody else has signed him.
That's true. That's true. But
And
nobody
that
else
was the
has
other thing
signed
I
Nick
said to you
Chubb
in the
too.
car. Well, no, but he's coming off 2 season-ending injuries,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure he wants to sign anywhere but Cleveland. I don't know. I
Yeah.
could be wrong.
But to that point, though, we have, you know, what we did this year with 3 high-level picks. I believe we're going to be able to do the same thing next year and bring in 3 starting caliber. That's what we need
But
to look at. That's you know, when we look at the draft, you know, it can't be, you know, high risk, no reward, because that's what it's been with us. It's got to be who can make an impact and who can be a 5, 7, 10-year staple, who can be a Myles Garrett tenured, maybe not the impact of Myles Garrett, but the tenure
But that's
and the consistency.
but here's the issue with that is we always anytime we have that first round pick, left tackle.
It's not any time. No, I mean, you know,
We took Mason
When-
Graham
when's-
this time.
you know, when we took Jed
Wait,
Wills.
no, hold on.
what-
When-
you gotta
when
think
is
of
the
when we
last
took Jed
time-
Wills.
When is the last time? Because I honestly don't remember. We took a skill position in the first round.
Baker,
Non-quarterback.
What's-
Trent Richardson.
Yeah.
That was what 12 years ago.
I'm trying to think what
When was
skill
that?
positions you would take at that.
Let me look.
Because usually we're so high that you're not taking running backs there. You're not taking wide receivers there.
There you are.
No.
There you are.
Not unless you have Julio Jones coming out.
Which we traded away.
All right.
But that's why it was funny, Drew.
No, not funny. I'm not laughing.
Old Philip Taylor. I'm looking at our wide receivers.
So
Are these
where
correct?
I'm going with that is we with
Baker
Wait.
Mayfield was the last.
yeah, I mean again, we draft quarterbacks in the first round.
What
Like
Manziel?
we eat no bake cookies when they're out on the table.
Right.
Manziel.
Okay?
Yeah,
we
then
love
Trent
our first
Richardson.
round.
Shout
Trent
out to
Richardson. Johnny
Mimi.
Manziel and then Trent Richardson.
Shout out to
before
Mimi's
that.
No Bakes.
Yes, Mimi's no bakes are wonderful.
Prior to that, Brady Quinn, then Braylon Edwards, Kellen Winslow Jr.
But he
There's
was
a few
good. He
forgettable
was talented.
names.
Well, no,
Am I-
Kellen was
wait,
talented. He's just
wait,
the head
ta-
case.
This wide receiver room we have right here. These guys are all still here, right? Judy, Tillman, Michael Woods,
Mm-hmm.
David Bell,
Mm-hmm.
Jabari Thrash,
Mm-hmm.
Deontay
And-
Johnson.
DeAndre Carter.
Yeah, he's the return guy.
Yeah.
That's not a bad room.
Man, it's
Dude,
a bad room.
Michael Woods has been injured for 3 years. David Bell's coming off a season-ending injury,
Yeah, but he's
and has
been
never had a season where he was actually a contributing wide receiver.
Because he hasn't
Amari
had a
Thrash had
quarterback
2 or 3
I'm not talking
catches
about
all
Amari
of last
Thrash.
season.
I'm talking Judy Tillman
That's it.
and
That is it.
Bell.
No,
has never
Bell's
had-
coming off a
no,
season-ending injury,
Okay.
and he's got 300 yards for his career.
He'll be fine.
And he
Says it-
runs like a 5.2
Yeah.
40.
He's got hands. For
He did in
days.
Purdue.
Yeah.
That's no
And
question.
we've got
I like
quarterbacks.
and I was his biggest cheerleader of
We're-
this
we're
group.
coming into the
we
Dylan
love- we
Gabriel.
love
You guys
David
are-
Bell.
You're
So-
missing the mark. We're coming into the Gabriel era, and we're going to need guys like David Bell to run 3 and outs.
That's what we do on offense.
Right.
3 and out.
Well, no, I'm saying we're going to need them now. Now we're going to need those little 3-yard outs and 5-yard outs.
No, that's our offense.
That's
3 and
what I'm
out.
saying.
Yeah.
But you can't say that anybody on our roster, Jerry Jeudy is a bona fide NFL receiver. Cedric Tillman is a bona fide receiver for 6 games last year, 5 games. That's it.
He'll be fine.
That's our entire wide receiver room.
Deontay Johnson.
And now we added maybe the biggest
head,
head case in the NFL.
but he added
Yeah.
some sweet dreads. He looks cool. As
Now, I
heck.
will say this, and again, here we are at the end of April, rookie mini camp next week, the Hall of Fame game is the first few days of August. So we've got time. I still see, let me just tell you what I see. I see us making a trade for a wide receiver,
Yes, I do.
and I
too.
see us unloading a quarterback.
So we're going to give up assets for a wide receiver
That's a
instead of
proven
just
guy.
drafting a wide receiver.
Mhm.
Well, what's smarter?
Who's the asset we're going to give up for a wide receiver? For
Probably Kenny Pickett.
a wide receiver that does anything for you.
Well, I mean,
If we have all
Kenny
these
Pickett to
holes
the
and all this
Steelers
lack of
for-
talent, who are we giving up?
Kenny.
well,
For what kind of wide receiver?
You're going to send him to Pittsburgh, and you're going to pick up one of the big boys over there.
yeah, no, the
it's
name
a no
that I hear floated as far as who could possibly
Don't say
be
Jalen
traded.
Waddle.
No. Oh, no. Who I'm saying what asset we could give up would be Greg Newsome. That's
Which
the
that's the
I
one
hear.
to Miami that they're saying Miami's looking for a cornerback. They want Greg Newsome, and they're offering Jalen Waddle. They're not.
They're not. Well, I don't know.
You're not giving up Jalen Waddle for Greg freaking Newsome,
I mean, I'd take that trade.
right? Yeah, with the 2 firsts that we have next year.
And Tyreek
Yeah.
Hill.
Oh no, I'm not giving up.
No, but I'm saying that's what it would take.
I mean, I the only reason I'm going to disagree is because we've seen guys like Amari Cooper and some of those guys go for 5th round, 6th round picks. The wide receiver,
But you're talking about a
value-
25-year-old as opposed to a 32-year-old.
well, I'm just saying the proven commodity wide receiver value has dramatically dropped. As far as,
And at the end of the day, if I could go drop a Maury Cooper type wide receiver from where we got him for the 5th round and still have the talent we have, I'm okay with that.
the Amari Cooper deal for
Lacka.
us was a win all the way
Oh,
around.
that was a great deal.
Yeah,
was
all
a
the way
great
around.
deal.
Even getting rid of him was a
Yeah.
good deal. So,
No, I don't disagree with that.
yeah,
Actually, what we got for him, isn't that what we picked up your guy from Bowling Green with, wouldn't it be? I think didn't we get a 3rd out of him?
yeah, it was
No, that
the
third I
second
think is
third
ours.
was Dylan Gabriel maybe.
Oh, then bleh.
So, well, let me finish
Let's
my thoughts
pretend
on.
like it was.
Let me go to the other draft picks.
Oh boy,
I think I'm done with that. My papers. I'm done venting on defensive tackles. But all that to say, and I used this word at the draft, so I'm going to use it here. In my mind, in my estimation, it's an abomination of duty, a dereliction of duty for Andrew Berry to pass up Travis Hunter to get a defensive tackle that's going to play 30 snaps a game. Now, the rest of the draft picks, just give my thoughts on those real quick. Carson Schlesinger. The pick's growing on me, but to me, that means that JOK is probably a lot further away than we hope. But we still have a couple good linebackers where I don't think it was as huge a need. We have Devin Bush, and who's the guy we just signed?
That's what I was just going to ask. Who we just brought in?
The guy we just
Jerome
signed.
Baker, I believe.
Um,
Jordan Hicks
Jordan Hicks, that's his name.
and Jerome Baker.
And Jerome
Yeah, we,
Baker,
did,
yep.
we did bring both of them.
And Mahmoud Diabate, which he's been good in
he's more of
small.
a safety though.
Winston Reed, Nathaniel Watson we drafted last year. I mean, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I mean, whether JOK was back 100% this year, we still needed another linebacker.
Well, but again, I'm looking strictly at numbers.
Right.
If you take JOK out, we still have 6 linebackers
Right.
on the roster. It wasn't a position. It's a position of talent need, not a position of numbers need.
Right. Because they do a lot of rotation with those guys too.
Right. And it's the most devalued position in a Schwartz defense. Now, having said that, it's kind of like we talked about Cam Ward. I love the fact that the kid came from nothing and
Yeah.
made himself into something.
Yeah.
Walk on that transform. You know, I text you guys. He didn't even start for his team at the start of this year.
Right. It was the second rated highest linebacker in the whole draft.
Yeah. So I admire what he did to get where he is. But I don't think when you look at the wide receivers that were still on the board, the Luther Burdens and things like that, to me, that's a much more pressing need. Because right now you have 5 quarterbacks with nobody to throw to.
They're going to throw to each other.
Yeah. Well, they're going to throw to David Bell and Michael Woods while they're sitting on the training table.
It's going to be that 5
Well,
quarterback
and
option.
Cedric Tillman.
You're going to have all 5 of them line up in the backfield.
Yeah. So
Joe Flacco's your slot receiver.
Him as a player is growing on me. But again, I thought there were more pressing needs at that position.
Fair.
Just at that point. But him as a player is growing on me. The next 2 picks, I'm 100%. That was the only bright spot of this draft for me. Love Quinshawn. And as I said, Fannin was the one guy I wanted to come out of this draft.
Yeah, that's the other guy.
an
You
A++
got
pick.
kind of a receiver because you got David Njoku at tight end.
Well, they're going to have to run a bunch of 12 sets.
I was going to say they're going to have plenty of times
Yeah.
where they're both probably on the field,
That's where they're going to run.
Right.
They're going to run 1 wide receiver, 2 tight ends.
and maybe he'll be like a wide
I mean,
receiver.
could even be 3 tight ends. I mean,
Well, we only have one
talking about,
others,
they're talking about
like
running.
Whiteheart or whatever.
What's that?
We only have one other tight end, the Whiteheart. Blake
No,
Whiteheart.
who's the?
No, that's who we have.
That's the only other one we have.
I think the Adkins guy or whatever, Atkinson guy, he left.
No,
Atkins.
yeah, he's a free agent.
Oh, okay.
I heard-
Blake Whiteheart, Minjoku. Oh, I don't.
Yeah, there's a couple others.
Brendan Bates and Trey McKitty. I don't even know when we got them. They must have just come on.
Yeah.
Did
Your
you know
guy-
that David Bell. Oh no, never mind.
Yeah, he's still on their team.
No, I know. But
That
So-
Fannin, I heard Kevin Stefanski talk about that they've actually got thoughts of him playing some Wildcat quarterback.
Yeah.
I love that.
yeah, that's what I mean. He's a real versatile. I love him. I hope he. I
Like I
think
was
he
in a
could end
hurry.
up being the best pick of this draft.
I do too.
And then you guys have already said I don't
Better
need to
than Hunter.
revisit the Dylan Gabriel pick was just baffling, but the more you hear, they're convinced he's the guy.
Right.
Now, how they knew he'd be there till the 3rd round, that would be an interesting insight.
Yeah.
Where if he's their guy, why didn't they pick him up sooner to make somebody else didn't get him?
I honestly think he'd have been
But-
a 5th rounder. So.
I do too, but
That's
I'm thinking they picked him up for a reason.
Well, it's
But
kind of like
I also don't believe Barry is a guy who I trust very much when it comes
when
to
you look
drafts.
at the list of the guys, like when I was saying back on mine, it's like if I rearranged the order of some of these picks and took them where I thought they were valued at and still ended up with them, I'm fine with that. So to put the number there, it looks like Quinshawn was their guy. Bannon Jr. was their guy. Gabriel was their, like, these are their guys. And so they went and they got him and they snagged him, which is
but
why.
what that does too, they had a full draft.
Yeah.
They need to be on the hook.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
it doesn't work out, they need to be done. If it works out, they get
Yeah.
another year.
Yeah, the only again, the only 2 that I don't think we can hold their feet to the fire on would be Gabriel and Sanders.
I don't
No,
know.
I think
You took-
Gabriel, you hold their feet to the fire with Gabriel.
I think if
because
I mean-
that was their guy.
I understand, but nobody expects a 3rd round draft pick quarterback,
I mean, that's where Russell Wilson was picked up.
but nobody expected him when they drafted him to win that job. He earned that job in camp.
You're talking about after
Russell
1
Wilson
year.
and I
You're talking about it just after 1 year.
yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, just
that's
this
fair.
year.
Oh,
That's fair.
I'm thinking
That's fair.
the same thing. I'm thinking, I expect if I'm using a 3rd round pick on a quarterback, that eventually that's going to be the guy.
No,
And that's where I could come into play though too and say, if I do cut him this year or we trade him or whatever, he doesn't make it past camp and Sanders becomes that guy, I can kind of swap those spots. Because if I would have taken him with that 3rd round pick, I'd have been fine with that. So it's almost like
Yeah.
I missed with this one, but if I switched their order, because I really think that Sanders should have gone third and this Gabriel should have gone in that fifth, but that's just ticking.
I'm really convinced that this time next year, when we're doing this,
We're going to be drafting a quarterback in the first.
I'm convinced that that's going to happen. That's what I'm telling you.
Which then
But-
these two picks become wasted.
Right.
You know, when you
Well,
have
that-
other holes you
well-
need to fill.
Okay.
Wait,
you're
before,
potentially-
I don't want to go too far from this point because I just heard somebody they already did a mock draft for next year,
Yeah.
and it had us with the number 2 pick again, taking the kid from Penn State.
Yeah, who's
Like-
awful?
How
Aller,
terrible
Drew Aller.
is that though? That you're going to
But-
go this whole year with 5 quarterbacks on your roster, and you're going to be picking with the number 2 pick. By the way, the number 2 pick wasn't Jacksonville's; it was ours.
Yeah,
Like they were saying, we were going to be
because
that
we
bad
still have no offense.
Well, I ran a mock draft,
And you got the number 1
first
pick. Yeah, yeah, you get the number 1 pick. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yes.
So
you know,
Dylan was
we're almost
confusing,
there.
but Dylan Gabriel, Dylan Sampson, again, really talented player. He's different than Quinshawn, and so I like the balance. But to me, that means you got to give up on a Jerome Ford because you're not going to keep Jerome as a third back. I don't think at this point with
Yeah.
that many years under his belt. You know, somebody else is going to come in as your third, an undrafted free agent, something like that.
Yeah.
But I like him as a talent, but you still haven't addressed the other huge needs on your roster. You've doubled up on running back. You've doubled up on quarterback.
Yeah.
And you haven't addressed the other holes.
That's what makes me think there's something else in the works.
I agree. And I think they're waiting.
But
to see
but
all
again,
the undrafted rookies and all that stuff.
Shador, I'm actually really excited because I think
I am
there's
too.
talent there, and I think hopefully
It's gonna make
this
the camp interesting.
has
that's for
him
sure.
motivated. That's all I'm going to say. I think there's a lot of potential there. And I'm excited to see that. But my question with there's something in the works. Who do we have that you're willing to trade that you think you can get anything worthwhile for?
Well, that's goes back to what we talked about earlier. We gave up a 5th round and got a stud in Amari Cooper. So I don't think it's a matter of what do I
I'm
have
talking
that's
about.
worth.
I'm talking about assets like players.
I mean,
draft picks. Yeah, we could throw 2 firsts and get a pretty darn good something.
I don't think there's any assets that we're going to get rid of to trade. I mean, you just don't see a lot of player for player type moves very often.
The issue with the
anymore.
receiver I see right now is that's your second highest paid position
Right.
behind quarterback.
So the ones that are willing to go are
the
dump
reason
salary,
we
don't
got
have that room.
the reason
Like
we
you gave
got
Deshaun.
Amari Cooper was back then they were shedding salary.
Sure.
Right.
People now are going to
Knowing
keep
that
those high paid
knowing
receivers.
where the receiver
Yeah.
market was going.
Well, and to that point, we just got done with the draft and we did not take a wide receiver.
Mhm.
And there was tons of talent in the wide receiver pool, right?
There wasn't
So-
high end talent. There was a lot of mid range talent,
Right. So my point in that is that
other
there-
than Travis Hunter.
there
He was
could-
the high end talent, and we passed on him.
yeah,
Generational
You got-
bust.
Yeah.
When he has
So-
1,500 yards receiving next year, don't come talk to me.
Wait until
What if
Mason
he
Graham
has
has 16
300?
sacks.
And gets toasted on defense.
He won't.
Old
What if
T-Rex.
he does though?
He
You know what I'm
won't.
saying?
What
So-
about when
You're
Mason
so
Graham,
convinced
old
about
T-Rex,
Mason
has
Graham?
16
No,
sacks.
I'm
this year?
trying to be convinced
You're
about
so
Mason
convinced
Graham.
he's going to start over proven veterans.
Yes.
We don't have
I'm
any proven
convinced that Travis Hunter is
gonna
going to
be
be
catching
a
passes
number
from-
one wide receiver from day one.
From
He better be for
Trevor,
Jacksonville
Trevor
what they
Lawrence
gave up for him.
with the
Hmm?
California hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All you got to do is
predict he-
throw it up. He'll go get it.
I predict he breaks his leg in game 1.
No, but
Well,
back to the wide
he
receiver
is
thing. I
injured.
really
Oh, you're talking
believe
about Travis Hunter.
somebody's going to be wanting to shed some of those high salary receivers because they've got young, cheap talent
Right.
that they really feel can come in. And I think there's going to be some availability as we get into
Like
team
a Wes
camp
Welker,
Like a
Wes
what?
Welker, Wes Welker might be available right
Julian
now.
Edelman.
Yeah,
But a lot of your older veterans are like your Devontae Adams and stuff. They're taking cheap contracts from year to year
That's all.
because your high paid wide receivers are the ones the teams aren't going to give up on. You know, Cincinnati just signed Higgins and Jamar Chase. They're not
Mhm.
giving up either one. Justin Jefferson's not going anywhere. You
well,
know,
I'm not saying we get
Hey, I
one
don't
of
need
those
those.
guys.
no, but I'm saying
we get a
but-
starting quality receiver from somebody that they're trying
no,
to shed.
and I get that. But what I'm saying is most teams, that's their high paid. The other ones aren't making enough to need to shed the salary.
Yeah.
At least not that I can think of.
Right.
Is there a mid-tier wide receiver that's
can see-
overpaid?
Like a CD Lamb type guy. Or,
He wouldn't be overpaid.
that's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, are we still being linked to Brandon Ayuk? I mean, I
Yeah,
know they
that's-
restructured his contract or did something with him, but that doesn't
might be
mean
part of the
anything.
deal.
Well,
too,
but
you
that
know?
was at least rumoredly he wasn't going anywhere for less than 2 firsts.
Well, we got him now.
I already said that. You didn't want Jalen Waddle for that.
I don't want Jalen Waddle. I don't want to give up my Mason Graham first either.
We already have Mason Graham.
I know, but that's
the
how
the
we
first
got him.
name.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I'm saying that's to get it.
I don't see us having to do that. I think the a veteran, quality veteran.
What did DK?
receiver-
DK got a second?
Yes.
What
He
did
got Pittsburgh
Debo go-
second.
I mean, that's
Whoa.
that's the tier you're talking about.
What did Debo go for over in Washington?
I think he was a second as well. Let me look. But that's the tier you're talking about, I think. It's kind of that mid tier.
You think DK's mid?
Yeah.
He's
He wasn't even the number 1 receiver on Seattle. Tyler Lockett was.
Well, Tyler Lockett and him are both pretty good.
Yeah, but then they also had what's his face from Ohio State.
Smith and Jigba.
But Tyler Lockett was technically
Which, by the way,
wide
how
receiver
about
1.
Emeka Ibuka and him are going to be fun to watch,
Yeah, I know, right?
along with Jalen Milroe. We didn't touch
No, he
it
was
all.
only 5th.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. It was because I remember seeing him and going, "Holy cow, we could have got him
Yeah. So
for nothing."
that's what I think is going to
No, but he is
something
older
like
and
that's
he's
going
on
to
the
shake
decline.
out. Something
Yeah.
like that's going to shake out in camp, and I think we're going to unload one of our quarterbacks for a late round future draft pick, maybe 2028, 2029,
maybe.
something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah, he'll be 30 during the season.
Yeah.
Debo will. So he's a little bit on. That's when those receivers start going for the 5th round picks.
Right.
29, 30-year-old. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what Amari was.
Yeah.
28, 29 when we got him.
So, I mean, something like that could happen even in season. I mean,
Right.
we got 8 games before the trade deadline. So, it's between now and the trade deadline, we have a lot of time. There's going to be a lot of injuries. There's going to be a lot of, roster shuffling, who we start our,
Yeah, guys that emerge out of nowhere for other teams and they realize they don't need this guy anymore. And
we're not the team that people emerge from usually.
that's
so,
what I'm saying. We get to go pick them up for
Yeah.
5th round picks.
Yeah. I mean, we've
Well,
got
if they
plenty of
emerge-
people you wouldn't know who the names are.
People are going to keep him.
No. That's what I just said. If the other people emerge and they decide, we don't need this guy anymore because
I
this
get
guy
you now.
came out of
Yeah.
nowhere to be the
So-
guy.
Yeah.
So my you guys gave draft grades. I don't know that they are what they are. To me, at best, it's a C.
So you're
And
saying
that's
there's
all.
a
That's
chance.
that's
a
that's
passing
because they
grade.
took the one guy that
We
I wanted in
passed.
this
D
draft.
plus. I'm
Yeah.
gonna graduate.
Hey,
Apparently, they give a lot fewer D pluses.
Now,
than
if they
D
wouldn't have got
minuses.
Harold,
not a
they'd
grade they
probably
like to
be
give
more
out.
in the D.
that may be the best draft grade Drew's ever given the Cleveland Browns.
Well, that's because they drafted the one guy I wanted out of the draft.
Mason Graham.
I think
Dude, the
listen,
fact that
we need to
hold
start.
on, but
We
you're
need to start a GoFundMe and have our fans try and get Drew a Mason Graham jersey.
Oh, I might just do that.
So
are we
I have
having
a-
a jersey burning
look for a
ceremony?
link in the bio.
I have a cricket.
So
Make him one.
I know I'm taking the heat, and that's fine. But did you not agree with when we were both talking? It would be the most Browns thing to do.
No,
Okay.
And again,
So-
if I
so
had to
I'm
do the
not
draft
alone.
right now,
Yeah.
I would take Travis Hunter. And I know we're kind of running short on time, but
Oh, running long on
yeah,
time.
we're running long on time. But
Like Mason Graham is going to do every game
yeah,
in the
Yeah,
defensive
it
tackle
sounds like he
position.
runs out of steam too quick.
That's what I heard about you too. So I don't know. Jeez.
Oh, I'm just getting going on this draft. You want me to keep?
we got a whole nother show. Take 2
Yeah.
on the NFL draft.
I tried to keep it low key.
I thought you did well.
So
So overall, if you put the combined average together, it's an A plus for the draft.
Nice.
That's what I see.
you never
That's-
were real good at math
Or teaching.
school.
But I say this is a good spot to wrap it up. That was a lot of talk, a lot of good in-depth stuff there, breaking down the draft. Well done, fellas. I am to the point now where it sucks because all I want is the Brown season to be here now, and it's not. And
The good news is you have hopefully another month and a half, 2 months of actual good Cleveland sports.
right.
You can watch your
Basketball.
Cavs.
And this is where it starts getting fun. From this round on, like this first round, they did exactly what they're supposed to do. They won. They did it in crazy fashion, like we talked about, blowing them out. But at the same time, this is where it gets fun. And look forward to talking about them and breaking some stuff down. Hopefully the Browns news kind of slows down a little bit. And hey, maybe the Guardians will learn how to pitch a ball across the plate and not have it get hit and field it and turn their bats on. So
Home run derby.
yeah, I say until next time, this is 3 and Out.
Sayonara.
Peace.
Later.
Thank you for joining us on 3 and Out. Be on the lookout for more episodes.